As children, we grow up with certain expectations of the world that are based on our own needs for health and peace, and the ways in which we naturally wanted to connect with and be in the world around us. As we grow older, we learn about the realities, though, of our human and more than human worlds, and more likely than not, it shocked, scared, and depressed us. This is the real experience of our generation and in the global south in many previous generations as well. So, how did you first learn about conformity with systemic injustice, and what was your response to it over time?
This relates a lot with the experiences of childhood. I think I want this culture of compliance, I completely internalized, and but I think it took a leap for me to realize, like, one thing is to realize this power dynamics and harm in interpersonal relationships. Another thing is to connect that to larger systems, and then seeing that the mechanisms, the structures, and how this trauma operates in a cultural level, and how that compliance operates in a cultural level. So I think for me, it started with realizing this compliances to injustice in normal day-to-day dynamics, things that are normalized in cultures that are so embedded in trauma everywhere, especially in the global south, where you have so much trauma that it's like there's not even space for health uh, and boundaries, and this is
Yeah.
like extra. Like when I have time, I will work on it. Like there's no even time or space
Yeah.
to skill up on those things.
Even just
So
something so basic like, seeing something traumatic happen and having time to actually like process it, it's like
uh-huh,
a luxury.
exactly. Yeah, so I think compliance sometimes is not, the thing of I see like bad intention. I think it's complex, and people are so dealing with so many layers of shit that is like, I don't know, sometimes it's a protective response, or it's like not knowing how to do that, and I think it deeply relates with not being incentivized to set boundaries or to question, or like what are the consequences of questioning, because as you said before, even the justice system, the formal justice systems in the global south is so failed. Like people don't even try to get justice because they know it will take so long, it would require so much energy, it will require like money for lawyers, and like there are so many layers that make this so inaccessible, and it's like, and then you just accept as it's the thing way things are, when I think this sense of agency is also compromised in this way. How do you see it?
I think my first experience of systemic injustice as a kid was just racism, basically. I mean, this for sure is like the first um experience that I had in terms of how normal it was and how like nobody said this was wrong and everybody was like participating in it. And then kind of being like, well, I know that I'm not what they say I am, and I know that this is mean and this is horrible, but everyone's okay with it and they're encouraging each other to do it. You know what I mean? So as a kid, like that feeling was just kind of like, I don't think I should be here. Like I need to like not be here. And so my entire experience was just consistently built upon that conviction. I keep getting evidence basically that I'm not supposed to be here. Like I'm not allowed to be here. Or like I'm not wanted here. And I don't have a place here. and I don't belong here. I just keep getting that message, keep getting told that, I keep getting told that. And when I turned 18 in my home country, I was like, well, I need to leave. Like I don't belong here. And then it I just never felt a sense of belonging, basically. So that's kind of how I learned about conformity, because I was being asked to be something that I could never be because it's racism. I cannot change that. And so it's not like I understood that it was something that simply, was about my existence. And it's not something that I can seek justice for because, like, the entire culture is doing that to me, whether it's kids or adults or, you know, random people on the street, etc. How do you seek justice for that? It's not possible. So that was definitely like the way that I learned about it. And it was kind of strange because I had to learn it on my own. Because, like I said, nobody was there to mentor me. Nobody helped me through that. Nobody even acknowledged that this is racism and this is not okay, what they're saying or doing to you. And yes, we can't change it, but I want you to know that it's not okay. Like, no one ever said that to me. Um, and a whole bunch of things as well, like related to domestic abuse, for example. Same thing. Like a lot of people knew something was going on, but no one ever came and said like, "Hey, what's exactly going on?" And just so you know, like this is not okay, or let alone, like I'm going to help you get out of that situation. Um, and instead I was just basically rewarded for not complaining, rewarded for not saying anything, being congratulated or kind of like praised for being a quiet, obedient, responsible, sensible girl who was like always ready to like take on chores or like be a slave, basically. And that became kind of like the identity that I was supposed to conform to. And no matter how well I played the role, it's never good enough, right? That's the other side of it. The side of the extraction is that it's never good enough. So that in itself was yet another, like, even if you conform, it's still an injustice. That's when I understood that, well, if I'm never good enough, why am I doing all this hard work in the first place? Like, why am I putting in all of this stuff? And when I came to that understanding, I think I was probably like 12 years old. It was probably that year that I kind of, because I was born into a family that was very active at the Faith Baptist Church. My father left the faith when I was at age 12 because of some scandal, like some corruption scandal at the church. And I remember choosing to leave as well. I remember choosing like, well, there was this whole like science versus religion debate at that time with like Richard Dawkins and all this stuff on TV and everything. So I was like, well, I think I choose science because like religion was my experience of racism or part of that. And I felt as though like, well, maybe this is a way out. And obviously later on I realized it wasn't, but I think my response to it essentially was about trying to rationalize a way out of that situation so that I no longer have to not say experience the harm, but I think more of like I don't want to experience this harm anymore. And that was also part of like my suicidal ideation, blah blah blah. But I think there was definitely a part of me that wanted to kind of lie down and die. And then a part of me that was like, okay, like let's think strategy here. Like, how do we get out of this? Not having like, legal responsibility over myself because I'm a child, but also like not having anybody around that I can actually ask for help or talk to or, who's not going to just dismiss, basically. Yeah. I don't know if you had this, but like a lot of Indian families have this. Your parents tell you that, oh, we're going out on Saturday at 3 p.m. We're going to this person's house. So just like get ready, all this kind of stuff. And then on that day itself, like after lunch, you get ready, you put on the clothes that you wanted to wear, and then you step out of your room, and then your father looks at you and says like, no, you need to change. That outfit is not okay.
Oh,
And it used to happen to me a lot. Like I would have to change like 4 or 5 times. before it would be like, yeah, it's okay. And then they would blame me for being late.
It's impossible to not be
No,
blamed
that's
for
what I mean.
something.
You can never get it right, you know?
Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh.
And so I was never allowed to even just express myself like by wearing what I wanted to wear or anything like that. It would always be like, no, you need to change. This is very common in South Asian upbringing in general. Like a lot of people were kind of told that basically like a lot of control over how you look and how you behave. But for some reason, like it's less common in Chinese or like other Asian societies. Um, so this was definitely, yeah, a big example that probably a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah, I haven't experienced. I think in Brazil is a bit more relaxed, especially in terms of like clothing or
Or your
behavior,
hair, or like,
hair.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, Maybe it has to do here. I'm making assumptions, but it's Brazil is also so diverse that you see people wearing so many different things and styles and things like that. But I definitely experienced that sense of never being enough in terms of performance, like the grades at school and things I did, was never felt enough, and putting a lot of effort, and then like that frustration, with that you said about doing things over and over, and like the the thing that is valued is like the result and not the effort that you were putting into it, or how much you learned from when you started. Like an actual evolution is just like this standard grade that if you don't get there, like it doesn't matter if you improved a lot or not from where
Yeah.
you were.
And a
So
lot
yeah.
of it, so the conformity rationale is basically like, oh, we're preparing our children for the real world. And so therefore they need to know how to succeed, which is a coded word for like they need to conform.
Mm-hmm,
Because they
mm-hmm.
need to be like perfect slaves, basically, if they're going to get a job. And they need to like learn
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
orders and blah, blah, blah. So this is where the kind of like societal need to promote conformity comes from. Because basically, as adults, you don't get rewarded unless you conform.
Mm-hmm.
And then this bleeds down to, oh, I care for my child because I'm helping them to learn how to exist in the world and succeed in the world and blah, blah, blah. When in reality, it's incredibly harmful and it just damages mental health all across the board. You know, you cannot, in my opinion, you cannot claim to love your child if you are asking them to erase every part of their personality to suit what you think they should be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and this narrative of it's for the best, when if it is requiring erasure of individuality, and I think that's why it's so hard also to the authenticity nowadays, because if everybody's complying, then everybody is the same, like everybody's doing the same things, and there are a lot of mechanisms of enforcement and to in propaganda to incentivize that
Yes.
compliance
And the
and
whole
lack of it.
objective, I mean, it's so clear the whole objective is like a factory to create this clone after clone after clone of the same type of person who will serve this economic machine called capitalism, right? And if it's not capitalism, it's some other economic machine, which is, handed down from the hegemonic powers. So it's definitely about, I mean, this is a direct result of colonial management.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.